You're a professional web creator who needs a platform that works as hard as you do. Wix Studio is built for you, whether you're a designer, developer, or marketer ready to amplify your impact. Build intuitively with advanced design features and AI-powered tools. Manage your clients and projects efficiently from one workspace. Scale with dynamic systems and fully managed infrastructure. Create exceptional websites with hyper efficiency on Wix Studio.
Now more than ever, Lowe's knows you don't just want a low price, you want the lowest price. And with our lowest price guarantee, you can count on us for competitive prices on all your home improvement projects. If you find a qualifying lower price somewhere else on the same item, we'll match it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Price match applies the same item, current price at qualifying retailers. Exclusions and terms apply. Learn how we'll match price at lowes.com/lowest price guarantee.
Hey there, fictional friends, and welcome to another episode of Fully Booked. I'm Megan.
And I'm Shereen.
And it's officially the month of July.
July.
Yay! It's the middle of the summer. It's hot.
It's well hot.
It's well hot. Might be too hot.
Might be too hot.
That's a deep cut for people. I'm sure like one person's going to understand where that comes from. Anyway, and we're kicking off a new month. And I guess I think there's something about the summer months in general because, you know, you get like big blockbuster releases and stuff. And then that had died down for a bit, but now we've moved far enough past the Rona, I think, at this point that we've started kind of doing that again.
Yeah.
You know, for a while it had sort of died out.
Yeah.
And now we've started July is suddenly getting like these really big releases. You know, like there's a new like Jurassic World movie. There's all that shit going on.
There is,
Yeah.
isn't there?
I just, you know, everybody wants to go see Jonathan Bailey with his slutty little glasses on.
There's so many versions of him with slutty little glasses.
And we like all of them.
Of course. We'll go see all of it forever.
Yeah, he's great. So anyway, with that in mind, we were kind of, you know, chatting about like what to do for this month.
Yeah.
And Shereen brought up the idea of we should talk about like adaptations in general. Like, yes, I know we do that a lot throughout the rest of the year because of course we'll watch adaptations and talk about them, but we kind of decided it would be fun to like, you know, actually be able to have some conversations about the idea of adaptations and maybe like, you know, kicking things off today, really get into I guess how adaptations have evolved because I don't know about anybody else, but I think in the last like 15, 20 years, we've really noticed a difference in the quality of the book to film or book to TV series adaptation.
Well, we certainly have, haven't we?
Oh gosh, yeah.
We do so many of these.
Yeah.
Where we discuss the different, you know, well, like last month, for example, when we were talking the Da Vinci Code
Yes.
and Water for Elephants.
Yeah.
It really struck me, you know, oh wow, okay, adaptations before 2010, let's say, before 2016 versus after, there's like quite a big difference in like the cast, marketing.
Oh yeah.
The, you know, all that. So that's why we were kind of like, hey, let's just talk about it this month.
Yeah. No, and then when we were like, and I don't know what it is about like July and August, but it just feels like a good time to do that. I think it's that blockbuster thing. And for people who maybe, you know, grew up vaguely around the same time that we did, like, you know, 90s, especially like 90s and early 2000s, that was just a time where like that's what would happen during the summer.
Yeah.
All these massive films would be released and you would go to the movie theater like every week. You would go see a new release every week. Like that was the thing. Like it was like every Tuesday because we have like Cheap Tuesday tickets here.
Cheapy Tuesday.
Exactly. Every time Cheapy Tuesday would roll around, there would be a new movie that had come out the Friday before, so you would go see it.
I know, it was great.
Yeah, I know. And
Like,
then it died out completely.
I know. And we had this great movie theater that we would go to.
Oh my God, you're
and it
so
was like so old and like crappy. It closed down not long ago, but like it was still going. And we went, when was it, November, to see Wicked?
We went to see Wicked.
And it was like half falling apart. And it's like, oh, my childhood.
Yeah, basically. And it was like, you know, getting really stale smelling in there too. Yeah, but it was just, it had been there forever. But anyway, we wanted to kick things off by kind of looking at that a little bit. So talking about the idea of like, boy, how have adaptations evolved and changed in the last, like I'd say like 2 decades, but let's say like 10 to 15 years or so at this point, like probably 10 years especially, in terms of what is being done now when we're taking a work of literature and adapting it into a film or a TV show or whatever the case may be. And even like we're going to touch on the film versus TV show aspect of things too, I think. So anyway, before we get started with everything, Shireen, what is on your nightstand right now?
So I just finished reading Death in the Downline. You had talked about this.
I did, yeah.
You had touched briefly on it.
Well, we were playing a game.
A game, that's right. And I borrowed a bunch of books off Megan after that game. So one of them was Death in the Downline, and it's like it's about this character who has. She thought she was going to make it big as a journalist in New York City, but things just didn't work out for her. So she found herself back in her, small town, New Jersey, looking for a job, really kind of desperate, and meeting up with one of her old high school friends, previous best friend, I guess. And she ropes her into an MLM, a pyramid scheme. And it is just so funny. Like, the humor is so dark.
It's very glib and very, it's very glib and very dark.
Yeah.
And for people who really appreciate, like, that's it, like that very dark sort of comedic sensibility, because it's like a murder mystery as well. So for people who really appreciate that kind of tone.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good one.
It's just like, you're reading this book and you're like, oh, man, this is terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Someone died and like, ooh, what's the story behind this? But then there's like these moments where they're showing like social media posts or emails or something, and it's like, this person just died. I'm so brokenhearted.
Oh my God, it's
but
so
I'm having
funny.
a 10% off sale in honor of my grief or something, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is so dark and so funny.
It's so funny. That I agree with. Oh my God, the cat is opening the closet door right now.
Oh, right, okay.
I swear the things that we wind up with as background noise on this podcast, no matter whether we're recording at your house, at my house, it could be anything. It could be people talking to us. It could be the like various animals that we have doing
giving a big shake.
Yeah, that's it exactly. Like the dog comes and starts rolling around on the carpet. In my case, it's the cats either get the zoomies or they decide that they're gonna like cry about something. But anyway, Death in the Downline's a fun one. Maria Abrams she really hit the nail on the head with the sensibility of MLM culture.
Yeah.
And like,
direct sales.
Megan? Oh, I'm so sorry. Direct sales culture and what it turns people into, where like people are dying and they're like, oh, and I'm so sad, my sister, blah, 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 but use my discount code for XYZ% off. And you're like, but people, this is not even an exaggeration. This has like, people have found like posts and social media things that folks in MLMs have done like this, and they've used like tragedy in their families to try to sell their products. Oh, it's incredible. It's just wild. So,
So, very good. Definitely recommend.
Yeah.
What about you, Megan?
So I don't know if I mentioned this in previous episode, but I finally read Quicksilver.
Oh, yep.
Yes, she's very good. I get it. It's good. No, it's a good one. I'm looking forward to the sequel. It's going to be great. I don't need to get into any of it. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, obviously. But I also am currently reading, I'm reading an ARC that we were lucky enough to receive from Harper Perennial called Girl Next Door by an author named Rachel Meredith. It's her debut. It is a rom-com, basically. There's like, it's sort of, I guess I would classify it as like rom-com, but also like leaning a little bit into the like dramedy kind of aspect of it, about a woman who she works in like freelance like copywriting essentially and has done for a long time. And her best friend, who he's like an editor essentially with a magazine, there's an author who uses a pseudonym who's written a sort of YA romance novel that's become very popular, but the author, no one knows who they are.
Okay.
Because they use a pseudonym and they've never revealed themselves. And he reads this book and is like, we know the person who wrote this book. She's a girl that we went to high school with, and she definitely had a crush on you when we were in high school. So he's like, go back to our, like the smaller town that they grew up in. And she, like the woman who they believe wrote this book, works as a librarian there. And he's like, can you go and suss out? And it could be like an expose that we do.
Yeah.
So she does that, but also this causes her to confront certain things to do with maybe the high school experience that she did have. the relationships that she developed with people, a bit of a tense relationship that she has with her brother, for instance, and also confront maybe developing feelings for this woman now that she maybe hadn't considered like earlier at that time. Like she was queer, she was like out when they were in high school as far as I know, but hadn't maybe like considered things at that time necessarily. So there's like a developing relationship that takes place. It's like, it's quite good. I'm really enjoying it. It's like, that's it. Like, it's a great, like, I think it's a really, really good, really solid, like LGBTQ plus, like rom-com, so I have sort of romantic drama to an extent.
Yeah.
It's got good characters. The banter is good. The conversations are good. And like, it touches on serious topics, but also keeps like kind of a semi-light tone to it as well, while like, going through all these things, and has like enough like goofy moments also to kind of keep you going. But I'm really liking it so far. So I'm going to finish that, and I'll definitely, it's coming out in September, if I'm not mistaken, September 9th. So I'm going to, finish that, and there will be a review up over at fullybooked.ca cool. after I finish reading that as well.
Borrow that from you too.
Yeah, it's a nice one. I think you'll like it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's good. Okay.
All right.
Let's talk about adaptations. Because so like I mentioned, we are people in our 30s, and so we grew up in the 90s.
Don't say that. I sound so old.
Oh, shut up! You're fine. You're like 2 years younger than me. I don't know what you're complaining about. We grew up in the 90s and early aughts, and there were definitely a ton of adaptations that were made during those times. However, it feels like, I don't even know how to describe it. It almost feels like when this was happening, there was more of a focus on like the big, flashy blockbuster aspect of it, as opposed to us making an adaptation of a novel. Yes. You know what I mean?
I completely agree with you, because I can't tell you how many times, like, there was this big movie that came out, like, The Godfather. Let's use The Godfather.
Sure.
They made fantastic adaptations of this
True.
book, but most people didn't even know that it was a book.
No, I think a lot of people still don't know that it's a book, or multiple books. I'm assuming it's multiple ones. There's 3 parts to the
I'm not
films.
Too sure, to be honest. But like same thing with James Bond or
Psycho.
Psycho's
a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. I was just trying to think of really old ones. I was like Psycho, Rosemary's Baby,
Forrest
Jaws.
Gump, Shawshank Redemption. I think people knew about the Shawshank Redemption.
Maybe
Stephen King was quite.
He was.
big.
It's true in the literary world, and like every Stephen King adaptation, obviously the
gets
good,
quite a lot of
the
hype.
good and the bad.
Yeah, they all get quite a lot of hype.
They do.
To be fair. So, but I think in general, like growing up, it was always like, oh, this big movie came out with big actors.
Correct.
Like the biggest names in Hollywood.
Yes.
Were being brought into these adaptations.
Yeah.
But they were forgetting that it was an adaptation. Princess Bride, another adaptation.
True. Yeah.
So it's interesting because it was like. It wasn't that the book itself was getting the attention.
It was the movie that got the fanfare.
movie.
Very much. And I mean, I suppose to a degree you could argue that still happens, because there will definitely be like movies and things that will come out that people will be like, this is based on a book. Like, it does happen.
Yeah, of course.
And it happens to all of us. It happens to me all the
all
time.
the time.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time that I'll be like, oh shit, this is based on a book. Okay.
Even when we're researching things for like,
oh my God, yeah.
Whatever we're going to talk about, we'll be like, oh, we should watch this movie. That was a book.
I know
Yeah.
that have multiple times this has happened. So I think that probably also points out that like we'll know what the movie is, but we'll barely be aware that it had a novel that existed before the book. So you don't remember. You're like, oh shit, okay. Like you have no idea. And it's all the really big ones are the ones that you remember, but you never remember that they were a book first.
I mean, of course, then you've got like your examples like Harry Potter, The Lord of the Rings.
Sure.
Like, these were. It's not like the situation with Stephen King where he's like a beloved author who's come out with like a whole bunch of different types of books. These are series of books in themselves that were beloved for generations of people.
Because I guess like the beloved author part, you could argue that about Tolkien, but it's for a very niche audience,
Yeah,
literary wise.
Hobbit,
correct.
You're talking Lord of the Rings, Silmarillion.
Yeah, and but you could argue it, but I also feel that it's because of those specific works that he was beloved, and he was also only like in terms of the books themselves, it was especially like before these films were made, it was only like a niche quotient of people who had read these books, like a specific type of person who wanted high fantasy.
Yeah, because I mean, these were, they weren't the type of books like fantasy books like Harry Potter, for example, with like a lot of like, I don't know how to describe it, like fanfare.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
no, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not quite the same. Like, if you're going to like hunker down and read The Lord of the Rings, which I have done, it's a very different experience.
Oh, definitely. Than watching those movies. Yeah.
Very, very different.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, also, I guess just based on like, that comparison that we're making, you could also sort of argue too that a lot of these ones that get like a ton of hype like this, and that get that major fanfare are a lot of the times are for a younger audience as well. Like, right, like Harry Potter, like Twilight, like The Hunger Games, a lot of those ones that get like these massive amounts. It is partially because of that, and it's also just because maybe a younger audience gets more like exuberant, more enthusiastic about these things, right?
Merchandise to a younger
Oh,
audience
definitely.
too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, look at the Harry Potter universe.
Oh, 100%.
Like, look how much they've got freaking theme parks.
You have theme parks, you have stores in multiple parts of the world that have exclusive merchandise that exists for this. Oh, agreed. No, 100%. It's true.
But anyway, getting back on track, it's interesting because now I find when there's
Can you calm down? My God.
That's Mooncake.
Oh, stop it. You're so dramatic.
He's got things to talk about too about books.
Apparently.
His favorite book is I don't know what. Anyway, now when they do a release, the PR and the press tours or whatnot, I find that they do tend to talk a lot about the fact that the actors read the book. They
it's true.
understand what was going on in the book for their characters.
Correct. Where I feel like that was not a thing before.
I don't.
If anything, they were like, no, I didn't read the book because I didn't want to take away from the experience of like, the script and building this character. And you're like, the character is fleshed out in the novel.
We can hear their inner monologue in the novel. Why would you not want to listen?
But it's
why would you not want to read that?
Yeah, but it's how you know that they just like didn't give a fuck at that point, like what they were doing with it, which is it's unfortunate. I was like I was trying to like remind myself. I'm like, okay, what were some like good examples of bad? Like really bad ones, you know what I mean? Like what are some good examples of ones that were like really shitty?
Right.
So I was taking a look through like a list and I was like, oh, right, yeah, that's it. And some of them we've talked about for the podcast as well. Like, Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Oh, God.
Terrible, right? Like really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
Clearly no focus. I would be shocked if any of those actors had read those books at all. And the studio definitely didn't because they cast people who were like 7 years older than they should have been to play the roles.
Well, I think that was done on purpose because they probably wanted to like have some sort of like romance subplot.
Well, they did, and they did
on.
do it. But I mean, it happens in like a really cute way, like in the books and stuff, and then the TV show that they have now,
which they've remade,
which is much better. I've watched the first season of it. It's actually pretty good, honestly. Like it's quite good, and the characters are the age that they're supposed to be. Like these are middle grade books. These characters are like 13, 14, like they're young, and they feel like they are. They're written that way. They act that way.
That's how it should be.
Yes. Yeah. So like that's a good example. I feel like I've not watched the TV show that came out years later at all, the Golden Compass adaptation.
Yeah, so I read those books.
Me too.
I read all the books, and then when I watched the movie with Daniel Craig, I was really disappointed.
It was not good.
Because they did not do justice to the demons.
Yes.
At all.
Daemons. Daemons? Is it demons or daemons?
Daemons.
I'm not sure. Whatever.
Anyway, I always assumed that it was just a weird spelling of demons, but anyway,
I don't know.
They did not do it justice. They didn't do justice to anything in those books.
None of
those
the
books were amazing.
Yeah, none of the characters, none of the world building that exists in those.
All. And then when the TV show came out, I remember I said to my husband, like, we should watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was still so mad about the movie that, like, I started watching the show and I was like, you know what?
I can't even get into this.
I can't even get into this. Like, it's making me mad about the movie all over again.
Like, I can't even let myself enjoy this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And there was even a point, I will say, like, where when we would kind of like have these and then you'd have like some of the older ones too, like really bad. Like, have you ever seen the adaptation of The Scarlet Letter with Demi Moore?
No.
It's bad.
I I've read that book.
She tries to talk in a fake British accent for the whole
no.
movie. Oh, it's not good.
Oh,
It's a bad movie. And she's like, she takes a lot of baths. Like, she's naked a lot.
Oh, God.
And you're like,
to show that she's an adulterous whore.
yeah, basically. Well, yeah, that's it. And I'm just like, man, Hester Prynne is never naked in that book, let me tell you.
Because she's not an adulterer.
No, she has an affair with a minister or priest or something.
She does, that's right.
And that's why she is branded with a letter A there, yeah. And that she has to walk around with.
Then they came out with Easy A.
Yes, it's a funny movie.
That was like its own adaptation.
Kind of, actually, yeah. Let's see, what other ones am I thinking of here?
Going back to The Golden Compass, that's a perfect example of a giant blockbuster movie that came
out. Oh,
out.
definitely. Daniel Craig, Nicole Kidman's in that one.
And all the marketing, and it came out at Christmas.
Yes.
And like it was a whole
thing. They made a huge deal out of it.
And again, it was just not a good adaptation.
It was bad. Yeah, no, it was bad. That's it. And I don't know, maybe as a standalone film, if you didn't know anything about it, you enjoyed it well enough, and that was it, because it was probably fine. But but for people who were going in who really enjoyed the books, they went in and they were like, what the hell is this?
But I think most people didn't even know it was a book, probably. Again,
I don't know. I feel like that because I felt like that series got a decent amount of hype. Maybe I'm wrong. Like it didn't reach like Twilight level hype, but I thought it was pretty big.
I mean, I know that in England, I believe it was quite big.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure about over here.
I thought it was here. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I read them. So in my head,
could be.
It was. I don't know.
Could be. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other like examples of ones that were like. When I watched the movie, even some that were like maybe more like adult ones too. Because we're really stuck in like the YA sphere, but like some. Oh, you know which one? What is a really bad adaptation of like a decent thriller? Girl on the Train.
Yeah, so I read that book, and then when I watched the movie, I was like, I feel like they've missed out so many plot points.
Yeah, that made the book
really
like exciting to read. Yeah, like that made you be like, ooh, okay, I really want to see where this is going.
Yeah, they were more focused on Emily Blunt, who did, a great job as
she
an
did
actress.
She did a good job with what she had, you know?
Like I felt like it was a lot more focused on like, hey, look at the actors we've got in this movie. And you're like, great, but like you've missed so many plot points that like,
it's not
add
even
to the thrill of
it's
this
just
book.
It's not even intriguing anymore.
Exactly.
It's
like,
not interesting.
Like, okay, yeah. And I remember so one of the first dates that I went on with my husband, we went to see Gone Girl.
Oh yeah.
And he had read the book.
Yes.
And I don't know what had happened, but he had seen somewhere that allegedly they had changed the ending.
I saw the exact same thing. He and I had a conversation about that at one point where we were like, what changed?
Yeah, well, this was it. They had said that they were going to change. I still to this day haven't read Gone Girl. I have it. I should read it.
Yeah.
But he was like convinced that there was going to be a different ending or something.
But see, so like Gone Girl is a good example of like when you do it right. Yeah. But also, again, it took a massively famous cast and a massively famous director because it's a David Fincher film. Okay. So, that was obviously David Fincher injecting like a lot into adapting this property and also taking big names like Ben Affleck and stuff like that and putting them into a film like this and being serious about it. You can kind of tell the ones that were just doing it to make money versus the ones that were like, we want to make this because it's good and we would like to adapt it because it's good. Which also takes me to what I feel like we're seeing more frequently now, which, let's be real, I think that we all see it more regularly, right? That we're definitely heading, not always, but we're definitely heading more in a direction of series adaptations versus film.
And that makes sense because a book, there's so many details in a book and like inner monologue, discussions, exchanges between characters that you just can't fully capture in a movie.
It would be difficult. I think that there are still some like thrillers and things like that can be done, and we've talked about this before, that like most thrillers do have like a beginning, a middle, and an end to them. So making a 2-hour film out of that is an easier process. But if you're getting into anything that has either multiple entries in a series or has any sort of like world building or additional information or character development that needs to happen, it doesn't make sense anymore.
No, like you're better off making like like a 3-part miniseries if you need to.
A miniseries if you need, that's it, or like that's it, like a limited series if you need to, or making it into like a show, like an actual TV show, and expanding on certain things, especially if there are multiple books in a series. It becomes easier to do that, obviously.
Well, with them remaking Harry Potter, I mean, they had multiple movies.
Yeah,
but
they
now
did.
They're making a TV series.
Yeah, but now the thing with that show, right, is that it could expand enough to be like, well, every season is one full year, so it's one book, let's say, per season, which gives them an opportunity to include any amount of detail that they would like to.
Yeah.
Right, which gives them the opportunity to do that. So,
and, I can see them doing that more and more now, and especially like you and I were saying this, we were trying to figure out where was the tipping point where we started to kind of move away from this, it's a big flashy blockbuster with big cast. Not to say that they don't have, famous people in adaptations.
Oh God,
anymore,
no.
But, kind of our definition of, the big flashy lights versus this, hey, it is a book and now we are making, a show or whatever. We were like, I think 2016,
2015, 2016, yeah, like it's like in the mid 2010s, but also like you had mentioned this, and I think that's a really good point, is that the streaming services and streaming giants like Netflix and stuff like that had really picked up steam at that point, and I think that their level of popularity and the money that they had made really allowed them to start doing that, to maybe tap into that aspect of things.
But they also need content.
Oh, correct, yeah. So they're consistently kind of looking for stuff, and it can be difficult to find people to write original things all the time. Whereas if you're adapting source material that's already good,
that has a popular following,
yeah,
like you're kind of a shoo-in for some level.
For
of
at least,
success.
That's exactly it. So I think that that's really helped with them kind of being able to do that, and we started, that's it. We started seeing it through Netflix, and now like Amazon has a ton of it. Apple TV has a bunch of them. Like there are a lot now that have expanded on all of these things, and it's overall, I would say, paying off, because a lot of them have multiple seasons of shows that run, and like they gain like a pretty good following out of it. So,
and now they kind of have the benefit and also the downside of all this social media. So if they do an adaptation and it's successful, they're going to get praised widely for it.
True.
For sure, there's going to be some people who don't like it.
Yeah,
it's
always.
Always going to be the case.
You can't please everybody. So,
but on the flip side, if they do something and it's not well received, oh boy, are they going to hear about it, and loud and forever.
Oh God, yeah, for sure. I also think, and this I want to say, that's it. We were like maybe in the last 9-10 years or so is when we've started to see this shift happening, this change happening, and there actually being a focus put on adapting the source material as opposed to taking the general idea and running with it and doing whatever they want with it. There's been a shift that way. And I will say, in addition to that, there has been a shift in, particularly on the television series side of things, having the author involved.
Oh gosh, like you can see such a difference when you see that the author wrote the screenplay, or they were involved,
or
in
they're
the
an executive producer, a consulting producer on the show, and that's something that
like
you
night
see.
and day.
Oh God, yeah, and that's something that you see almost every single time. Now, like I feel like every time, like it's like, oh, based on the books by XYZ, that person's name is also in the credits listed as some sort of like consultant or producer in some capacity. And like it started a while ago with certain things, like almost from the beginning, like when Outlander premiered, Diana Gabaldon's been involved in the show from the jump, is my understanding. And now we're seeing it even with like really big ones like Silo. Hugh Howey is an executive producer, I think, on the show. And again, has been from the beginning, and seems to be very involved in the production side of things, per like, this is me, because Arthur sees a bunch of stuff on social media from him. So a lot of that aspect of things. I was telling Shireen yesterday, I just staying at my mom's place for a bit, and we just binged like 3 seasons of Sullivan's Crossing.
Are there 3 seasons of it?
Yeah, so there's 2 seasons on Netflix, and one we found the latest season on Crave. So it's Canadian content. It's a CTV produced show. Over here in our neck of the woods, that makes sense. Other people will be like, "What the hell is that?"
So what is CTV?
Yeah, it's fine. It's a CTV produced show. So We binged like 3 seasons of it, also based on a series of books by an author named Robin Carr, and she's also an executive producer on the TV show as well, and she's incredibly involved, and I believe she's written some of the episodes. And you're like, yeah, this is just, well, it's nice too, because it really used to be like, I hope that this continues, because it genuinely used to be that like authors would essentially be like, they'd get the opportunity to have their works adapted, but they would almost sign away their rights to anything to do with the production. Like Stephen King's talked about this a lot.
I was gonna say, like with The Shining and
that he had lost out. Yeah, and that he had lost out on a lot of them as well at the time, because it just wasn't something that was done. The authors were never considered, and their opinions were never considered with anything, and so they wound up, unfortunately, very often seeing their works like kind of butchered to a degree. Like, and it was the same thing. Like I was talking about Percy Jackson earlier. Rick Riordan hated those movies when they were made initially.
Well, I mean, because they weren't great.
No, they're not good.
To your point, it's like, this is someone's life's
yeah,
work.
they've put a lot into this.
Which is difficult to do as an author. And now it's getting adapted, and now you're butchering it. So you're essentially saying my life's work is not good enough.
No.
You're taking the shell of it and putting it on TV.
And putting it and making it into whatever you feel like making it into. Yeah. It's true. So I hope, anyway, I feel like we're overall, and it doesn't mean that all of them that come out are good, we know, or that you're going to like all of them. And that's also fine. But you know what? I feel like whether we're like, like with so many opportunities for adaptations to be made because of things like streaming services and all that, as well as theatrical releases, like having that combined power now, I'm hoping, one, gives the opportunity for us to continue to evolve the idea of these adaptations. And, I'm not saying that every single detail has to be the same. No. Adapting is adapting. That's what happens.
No, because it's difficult to do that.
It's like, almost impossible in a lot of cases.
You've got like your main character where you can read what they're
That's
thinking.
it.
You're never going to see that.
You're rarely going to see that unless like it suits the tone to have an inner monologue of some kind. Right. So we're going to talk about a newer TV show that has that at some point too this season. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. So, so we're going to talk about that probably next week actually. And, so that's cool, but it's not always the case. No. So I'm hoping that we have the opportunity to continue to see these adaptations happening and see them like foster and grow, and have the opportunity hopefully for authors to really continue to see success with these adaptations and really be able to feel as though their works have been done justice. Because I can only imagine if that were something that were to happen to me, and then an adaptation, like, they must be so excited when this is happening, and then to have it be like butchered completely must be so disappointing. So I really hope that we continue to be able to see success like that for authors, and they continue to be able to, see their works brought to life on screen, but in a way that they're really happy about.
Yeah, like Shadow and Bone, Leigh Bardugo was one of the writers, I think.
Oh, 100%. I'm sure she was,
one of the screenwriters, I think. And the fact that they were merging
her two big series of hers,
right? She was able. I think I can just imagine how that must have gone down, where they were like, "Hey, we're making a show, but we want to merge both of these series." At least she had the opportunity to be like, "Okay, let me take a stab at how I would merge,
how I would do together. That, how I would introduce these characters to each other, and how I would logic out that they would be in the same space."
Which they did a fantastic job, in my opinion. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I was a huge fan of that series.
So you know what? That's great, and I hope that I genuinely do hope that we continue to see stuff like that. Like as time goes on, it'll be really interesting to see how that goes. Mm-hmm. So anyway, in the meantime, like I said, we're going to be talking about adaptations and stuff all month. Examining a couple of newer ones, and also just chatting through some stuff that maybe we're kind of excited about as well. Yay! Because I think we like overall where the world of book adaptations are going.
For now,
we'll see how it continues. Anyway, in the meantime, obviously feel free to check out the website fullybooked.ca, where we have new content coming out all the time. Follow us on all of our social media: Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky. Just search for Fully Booked CA and you'll find us over there. But until next week, guys, keep on reading.
You're a professional web creator who needs a platform that works as hard as you do. Wix Studio is built for you, whether you're a designer, developer, or marketer ready to amplify your impact. Build intuitively with advanced design features and AI-powered tools. Manage your clients and projects efficiently from one workspace. Scale with dynamic systems and fully managed infrastructure. Create exceptional websites with hyper efficiency on Wix Studio.